Welcome back everyone to this video. In this video, I will be showing you this little card game. So this is going to be mostly GUI interface stuff, right? So you can see here, I can put my mouse in, the cards pop up. I can take a card, drag it up and put it on the board and it removes it from my hand. So there are no turn-based things. It just shows me how to put the card on the board and you'll kind of have to go from there. But I will show you the general idea of how I set this up. Okay, so the asset pack I will be using is a simple card back. I'm mostly just using it for the card. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I will link it down in the description down below so you can check it out. Okay, let's hop right into the setup. So first, we're going to have a node as our main board, right? So this is going to just be our board, and I'll put it in our main scene here. Next up, we're going to have our canvas layer. And I tried to set this up so that it's an expandable card game. So that way you can take this and actually make a game out of it. So it's not just simple things that hopefully doesn't have too many bugs. All right, and next we're gonna have a card holder. Now there's a very specific reason we have this, but we'll get to that in a few minutes, hopefully. All right, so I'm gonna name this UI, and then I'm gonna have a container. I'm going to be putting a HBox container, and this will hold all the cards, right? So I will call this card container. All right, now in here, we're gonna have a script for this. So I'll just put it in here. All right, now in this guy right here, we're gonna have a few different functions or signals being connected. So the first two are just gonna be mouse entered and mouse exited. All right. Next up, what we're going to do is we're also going to make a variable global script. Now, you don't technically have to do this. I mostly just do this to make the game a little easier, or to kind of keep track of these things a little easier. Now, in here, I'm going to have two things, a card selected and a mouse on placement. Now, of course, again, I'll say this one more time. You don't need it as a global variable. In fact, it's probably better if you don't. If you keep it on the board, that would probably be better. But I'm going to do that. So let's auto load it. So let's go over here, auto load our script, add, and now these two variables are global. It just makes it easier to access from anywhere. Okay, now we need the actual card. So the card itself, we're going to have to create as a new scene here. Now this card, I'm going to have three things. The first is going to be a general container. The next, we're going to have two things, an animation player. Now this is going to essentially animate two things, the select and deselect. So it'll kind of show that my card is being selected. And of course you can tween, you can use tween instead, but I just decided to use the animation player to make it a little easier. Okay, we'll also use a sprite as the card backs, right? So it'll be the back of the card. All right, now let's go to our asset pack, drop this guy in, and then you can see here, we can simply use the animation player. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So H frames would be 4. V frames would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'll just use this guy as my main card. All right, now from here, I'm going to drag this guy. Now it's a little blurry, so I'm actually going to go to project settings real quick and make it so that it's not blurry. Change that to nearest. Okay. Now, if you don't know how to do that, you basically just set the filter to linear or to nearest. Okay, now this will be the card itself. So I'll save this as a card. So let's rename this to card. Okay, now in the card, we're going to have to give it a minimum size of 105 over 136. That's basically the size of the card itself. Okay, what else do we need to do? Well, we need a script. So let's add a script. All right, let's delete all this. Now, let's do the animation player because I think that'll be a little easier. So we're going to have select as an animation to select the card. So we'll take the position of our current card, right? We'll take the position of what it is right now. And then we'll go to, let's say 0.2, and we'll just basically move it up a little bit. So let's move it up like so to make it look as if it got selected. Right, now we can key this. And now you'll see that it kind of goes upwards as we select it. And we'll change the time to 0.2. We don't want this to loop, so make sure that's not selected. Now let's make sure that the Y is the same on both of these. No, sorry, not the Y, the X. So this one is 54 as well. So now it should look like this. So it just goes straight up. Now what we'll do is we'll actually duplicate this, and we'll call this deselect. And what we can do here is just zoom in, and we can actually just switch these keys. So I'm going to drag this over here, and drag this key over here, and drag this key like so. So now it'll go from upwards to down as we animate it, as you see. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit. All right, now for the actual card itself, we're going to have a few things to add. We're going to put mouse entered, mouse exited, and then GUI input. Now, GUI input is a very nice function or a signal inside of all the control nodes. Now, this will be one of our main features inside of all of this. So it's very good to understand what this does. Now, GUI input is essentially input, right? So think of the input event, but GUI input. So GUI input will essentially look for anything that goes on in this control node. So this one specifically, this signal will only go off for this thing itself, right? So anything else, let me explain a little bit more in this sense. So if I have two cards, right? So let's duplicate this guy. If I touch this card over here on this one, it won't send a signal to the script in this one, which is what it would do without this. So if you try to use the general input, this is global essentially, right? This function or this input will detect anything no matter what script it's in, right? So this GUI input will only detect input on that specific node. Okay, hopefully that explanation kind of made sense, because it's very important to understand that in order to make the rest of this work, right? Okay, now for the first two, for the mouse entered and mouse exited, it's pretty easy. All we want to do is we'll say on mouse entered, we'll play the animation. So we probably want to rename this to anim. And we'll play the select card, the select animation. And then if we exit, we will play the deselect, right? Now, what about the rest of that, right? Well, we need the start position and we need the card highlighted. So this will allow us to, detect which card is highlighted outside of the card script, right? So we'll use that a little later, but it's important that we do this. So now we'll know what card is currently being highlighted. Next up, what we'll do is we're going to preload a card holder. Now this card holder is essentially going to follow our mouse when I drag and drop. So we're going to have to create that. So let's add a new scene here. Well, actually what we'll do is we'll just duplicate our card. So we can say card holder, and in our card holder, let's open this up. Now in here, we'll get rid of this guy. We'll get rid of the signals connected because we don't need those. And then we'll delete the animation player. All right, now in here, what we'll do is we'll add a script. We can make it built in, and this is super simple. We'll just basically take the global position and make it equal to the global position of the mouse, right? And I don't think I need this. Actually, I think we need this, so we'll keep that for now. So, okay, that is basically all this does. So the card holder will represent where my card is being held. Now, if you want the card to be held in the middle, we would hold it like this, because this card will show right here. So if my mouse is here, this point will move to my mouse, right? And the card will show as if I'm holding it in the middle. So this should work properly. So, all right, now let's head back to the card and let's make sure that we load this in properly so we can actually double check that it's the right path. There we go. We no longer have any errors. All right. Now what we can do is back in the card, we want to check to see if I left click. And I can do that by saying if event is input mouse button and the input index is 1 and the button mask is 1. Now button mask is essentially press down. Press up would be button mask 0. So what's cool about this is that alternatively, I can add an elif statement later to detect when I let go. So this is press down, and this is press up on the left mouse button, right? Now, if you wanted the right one, I believe it would be 2, but you can always double check by just printing the event, and this should actually tell you what is happening. So if we actually do this and play, and let's play the board. and I do this, you can see that my thing is being printed. Now, if I right click, yeah, you can see that it printed button index 2. So yeah, you would just do button index 2 for right click. But I'm doing left click, so I'm going to do 1. All right, next up, what we'll do is check to see if the card is being highlighted. If it is being highlighted, what we'll do is we're going to create a card temp from the card that we just created up here. And then we will add it to the card holder. And we can do that by saying get tree.getRoot and then get node board card holder. So this will get access to this card holder. Okay. And then we'll add the child there. All right. Next up, we will take our game and say card selected is equal to true. And then what we can do is we can actually just hide the this guy. So let's make sure that this is get card backs on this child 0. So make sure that it is child 0 that is being detected there, basically. All right. So all we're going to do is just hide the sprite. Now we don't want to hide this guy because what will happen is I can actually show you. So if we remove this, I'm going to have to say pass here. So now if I play and I do this, you can see here that I can press and okay, it's kind of weird. I think I might have to duplicate a bit more. But when I was testing this, essentially, if I hid one, it would collapse altogether. Yeah, there you go. You can see it collapsed and it basically removed that card that was in the middle. And I don't want that in terms of a card game, unless that is what you want. I'm just going to say, I'm going to hide the sprite itself, right? To make it look like I have it selected, but I'm still going to keep the card in the deck or in my hand until I put it on the board. Okay, so what about releasing, right? I want to release the card and put it on the board. Well, this is probably what you would want to do in terms of logic of ending a turn, let's say. Right? Let's say you're making a turn-based game. This is where you would do that, right? I'm not going to show the whole turn-based thing unless maybe you guys want that. But in here, what we'll do is we can say if the mouse on placement is not true, and we'll actually take a look at what this means later, then I can take the card highlighted and set it to false. And then I can show the child of the card. And that's it. So this essentially will tell us that I did not drop the card on the board. I dropped it somewhere else. Now this mouse on placement essentially will create an area here in the middle where I can drop the cards, right? Okay, so well, we need to create that. So let's create that. So this will actually be a control area, and we'll take this area and make it a little smaller because we can't have it be the entire screen. That wouldn't make sense. And this, we'll call it card placement. I'm going to capitalize the first one, card placement. And this, we'll have it as we'll give it a script. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Give it a script here and save it. All right, now here, this is pretty simple. All I want to do is connect the mouse entered and then mouse exited. And then if I mouse enter, I just say, whoops, game mouse on placement is equal to true. And this essentially tells me that the mouse is on the area I can actually select. So let's save this as well, card placement. All right, next up, we can actually go back to our board and add our card placement area. And I'll put this in the card container, or actually, no, I'll put it in the GUI or the UI. So now I'll take this card placement and move it. Okay, so yeah, that's why we don't put it in the container, because then it gets minimized. So I'll put it right here like so. And this is the area that I can essentially put the card down on. Right now, what happens if I try placing this? There we go. Okay, if it's not on the board, right, which is around here, then it goes back into the hand, right? Okay, well, we need to code the logic for the else, right? So here, I want to say else, place card on board, right? So this would be place card not on board, right? Now here we want to actually place the card. Well, how do we do that? There's a few things we need to do. The first one, we can actually just queue free the self, right? We can destroy the card that we're currently using in the hand, right? And then you would do other things. So end your turn, do whatever you'd want. Okay, but what else do we want to do? Well, I would want to first take the, I want to get node of the card placement and place the card on the board, right? That's another visual effect. Well, okay, so let's go to the card placement thing here, and let's create that function that I just called, because that function doesn't exist, right? So we need to make it. Okay, so here we'll say place card, and this is pretty simple. All we'll do is I'm going to preload the card on board. So let's go to card. Oh, unless I didn't make it. Yeah, I haven't made it yet, so we need to make that. Okay, the card on board will duplicate the card, and this will be card on board. Okay, so let's go over here. And in here, I don't actually believe we need much in the script. So we can actually just remove the script and then disconnect all these signals. All right, and then we can save. And then you could delete the animation, because I don't think we need that either, but it doesn't matter for me. I'm going to close that. And let's go back to our scripts for the card placement. Yeah, so okay, this one. So let's take our card on board, put this in. Okay, so this will be the card that I put on the board, right? So I'm going to take it from my hand and put on the board. I'm not taking anything. I'm just going to create a new one. And I do that by saying card temp equal card instantiate. I'm going to take the resolution of my size. So I actually played around a lot with this. This will essentially be adaptive to whatever your screen size is. So I'm not going to explain too much about this because I kind of forgot, but I do know this should work for most screen sizes. And then I calculated essentially half of the screen, and it'll put it in exactly half of the screen. So here we go. We have global position is equal to this vector, and then we're going to subtract the current position of the card, or of the card placement, sorry. And then we're just going to add child, right? Okay. Now, the reason why we can add child like this is because when we called that function, right, we're adding it to the card placement. So it'll be put into the card placement. Okay, what else do we need to do in here? Well, we also would need to take our game outside of this function, outside of this one, add it right there, and tell us that the card selected is now false. Okay, we also want to delete the current child of, we want to delete the card selected, right? So here we can say for I, we're going to basically loop through the card holder. Let's actually rename that to card holder. And we're going to get the child count. We're going to loop through all the children, essentially. And we're going to find the node that we're on, right? Or we're going to just delete one of the cards. This will only work if all the cards are the same. So this won't work if the cards are different. So you would need to change this if your cards are different. Okay, so let me just write a comment there. Only works if the cards are same. All right, this will just delete the first child of the thing, or it'll delete all of them. What am I saying? Yeah. Okay, let's play and see if this works. All right, there we go. We see that it gets dropped on our board. Now you can see that that pretty much works. But what about the hand? I want the hand, like my cards in my hand, to kind of be reformatted, right? I want it to kind of come back to where it is in the middle. Okay, we also want that effect of where it gets pushed up if I'm putting my fingers into the this area, right? Okay, in here, there's a few things we'll do. The first part, so in this script, I'm going to add a ready function that will set the everything to be in the exact middle. So this will set the position, the size, the pivot, everything into the middle of our screen. So this will actually, no matter where this is now, I'm going to move this over here, and let's fix all this. So we're also going to need these variables here. So we're going to need start position and max card allowed. Now, if I hit play, this should bring it down to over here. Now you can see I can select it, but if you recall from my reference, I also want it so that if I put my hand down, it does this, right? Okay, now on mouse entered, what we can do then is we can just tween it. Now we can do that by getting a target position, which will be -100, which is 100 upwards, and then we'll just tween. We'll create 2 tweens. So we'll tween the position to the target position, right? And then we'll also tween the size, right? So we'll scale it from 1 to 1.3. Okay, but now we also need to do mouse exited. And the mouse exited will only do it if we don't have a card selected. Okay, so it's the same thing, but we're just doing the opposite here. Okay, but for the target position, we don't need it because we're going to take whatever position it's currently at and then just go back to the start position, which is stored over here. Okay, so the start position is stored in the beginning, and that way we always keep track of where it started. All right, now let's test this and hit play. And now you can see that it pops up. Now we can pop it in, etc. And it works pretty nicely. Okay, so no matter where this is, it will always reset to the bottom and it always works. Okay, that is pretty much it. Just a little extra. If you want that effect where I had the cards a little closer together, in the container, we can go to the inspector, go to theme override, constant, separation, and just do -20. That's what I did, -20. And it makes the cards a little closer together. So now if I hit play, you can see here that it goes a little closer together, and we can do so, etc. And that's good. Okay, last thing I'll do is I'm going to minimize this. So that way I don't have an extra area where I can put my mouse in, right? And now we can see that I can use the cards very nicely. Okay, that is pretty much it. I believe there is one more part that I'm missing. Nope, I think that is it. Thank you everyone for watching this video. In this video, we pretty much did a lot of GUI stuff. Hopefully it kind of made sense. I did go a little fast, but I tried explaining as much as I could, even though this video is pretty long. It's about 20 minutes long. If you guys would like to see more GUI input tutorials, let me know in the comments down below. Or if you guys would like to see this video or this card game turn into a full series, maybe a full turn-based game, something like that, let me know down below. If I see enough interest, maybe I'll do it. But other than that, hopefully I would like if you guys subscribe to me, and I will see you all next time.